Hold on to your seats because this isn't just another celebrity interview gone sideways. It's a raw, unscripted clash of grace, grit, and live TV chaos that left millions stunned picture Jennifer Garner, Hollywood's beacon of warmth, with her glowing smile and unshakable poise stepping onto The View's iconic set to talk about a heartfelt film what started as a cozy chat about motherhood and strength spiraled into a blazing showdown when Joy Behar's biting words pushed too far. Before we dive into this electrifying tale, smash that subscribe button for Prime Narrator, tap the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments. This story will flip everything you thought you knew about Hollywood humility live TV boundaries, and what happens when America's sweetheart decides she's done playing nice. The studio lights burned bright, the audience hummed with excitement, and the cameras rolled on what should have been a simple segment. Jennifer Garner, radiant, as always, sat on The View's famous set her new drama about a mother's resilience at the heart of the talk. The air crackle with a strange energy and unspoken tension that pulsed through the room like a storm cloud creeping over a clear horizon. The crowd felt it, that uneasy buzz before something massive breaks loose. Joy Behar, with her sharp wit and sly smirk, leaned forward, the panel, her eyes gleaming under the glaring lights. Jennifer, she began, her voice carrying just enough edge to make the audience shift uncomfortably. You're always playing these wholesome roles, moms, caretakers, practically angels on earth. Don't you ever get tired of being nice all the time? The crowd let out a soft chuckle, polite but hesitant, teetering on the edge of unease. Joy's words lingered like a spark waiting to catch fire. Jennifer, ever the pro, flashed her signature smile, the one that's won hearts across screens big and small. But her eyes, those warm, expressive eyes, flickered with something deeper while she said, her voice light but deliberate. I love roles that reflect real people, their strength and kindness. Don't you think her response was pure? Jennifer, a gracious, measured, sidestepping the jab with ease. Joy's eyebrows arch, her smirk widening. Sure, she said, waving her hand dismissively. But don't you worry, you're not taken seriously because of it. I mean, come on, people call you America's mom. Doesn't that label ever grate on you? The words hit like a jab, sharp and personal. The co-hosts exchanged glances. Whoopi Goldberg leaned back, her expression wary. Sunny Hostin tapped her cue cards nervously. Sarah Haynes offered a half smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The audience's laughter faltered, uncertain, like a wave, unsure whether crash or fade. Jennifer's posture stiffened, but her voice stayed steady. I don't think compassion is weakness, Joy, she said, her tone calm but firm. In fact, I think it's something we need more these days. The audience murmured agreement, a gentle ripple of support. But Joy wasn't finished. She chuckled, her voice thick with irony. Oh, please, Jennifer, compassion's nice, but it doesn't win Oscars. You've been in this game long enough. You know nice doesn't sell. The audience's laughter wavered again, confused, uneven. For a fleeting moment, Jennifer's expression froze, her smile a mask of composure. Then something shifted. Her eyes, usually so warm, flashed with something raw, something real. She leaned forward slightly, her voice low but steady. Maybe that's why the world's so cynical. Joy, she said, everyone's chasing applause instead of peace. The studio went quiet. The audience murmured a mix of shock and awe. Joy blinked, caught off guard by the steel in Jennifer's tone. Whoopi shifted in her chair, sensing the air change. Okay, ladies, she said with a nervous laugh, let's not start World War III before commercial break. But the tension wouldn't ease. Joy, never one to back down, pressed on. No, I just think it's interesting, she said, her voice sharper. Now, some people play nice with cameras, but don't always live that way behind the scenes. The words landed like a punch. Gasps rippled through the studio, sharp and loud. Jennifer's jaw tightened, her eyes narrowing in disbelief. You could see the slow inhale through her nose, the effort to keep her composure. I hope you're not suggesting something personal, Joy, she said, her voice calm but brittle like glass about to shatter. Joy smiled thinly, her eyes glinting with challenge. I'm just saying Hollywood's full of surprises. It wasn't an interview anymore. It was a dual, raw and unscripted unfolding before millions. Jennifer's hand clenched subtly on the armrest, her years of media training urging her to laugh it off, pivot, move on. But something inside her broke. A line had been crossed, and she wasn't letting it slide. I've worked hard to stay true to myself, Jennifer said, her voice clear, trembling slightly with emotion. If that doesn't fit your version of entertainment, that's your problem, not mine. The audience erupted in applause, a roaring wave of support that seemed to surprise everyone. Whoopi's eyes widened. Sarah mouthed, oh my God, and Sunny looked down, pretending to shuffle her notes, desperate to cool the heat. But Joy didn't flinch. She smirked, a flicker of irritation breaking through her composure. Touchy. She muttered into her mic loud enough for all to hear. Jennifer's head snapped toward her. You know, Joy, I came here to talk about my film, not defend my character. She said, her voice sharp now. But since you brought up kindness, isn't an act as a choice one I make every day, even when I'm sitting across from people who confuse cruelty with honesty? The studio fell silent, a heavy electric stillness, like the moment before lightning strikes the audience, froze, no shuffling, no whispering. Just the weight of Jennifer's words. Joy blinked, realizing she had gone too far. Whoopi leaned forward, her voice low and urgent. We're going to break, she said, waving producers off stage. But Jennifer wasn't done, her voice softened. But every word carried thunder. We don't need more cynics. In this world, Joy, she said, we need people who believe in decency. The audience exploded again, louder this time, a rolling wave of applause that shook the studio. Some stood, others stared, stunned, their phones already out, capturing the moment. Joy forced a laugh, but it was hollow. Well, looks like I hit a nerve, she said, her voice tight. Jennifer tilted her head, her eyes steady, unyielding. No, Joy, she said softly. You hit a mirror. Gasp, sharp, audible gasps from the crowd. Producers' voices crackled through earpieces. Frantic cut to commercial now. Whoopi's voice cut through the rising chatter. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. The music swelled, cameras faded to black, and the energy on that set was pure chaos. Jennifer exhaled slowly, shaking her head, her hands trembling just enough to betray the calm she fought to hold. Joy looked away, her smile fading for the first time, her confidence shaking the audience. Whisper phones buzzing, tweets already flying, and when the view returned from break, nothing was the same. The commercial break felt endless, but it didn't cool the fire that sparked on that stage. The crowd wasn't just watching now. They were waiting, hanging on the edge of their seats, phones still out, ready for the next spark. Jennifer sat poised, her smile faint, but tight, like a woman had walked through a storm, and braced for another. Joy kept her performative grin, but her eyes showed irritation, a crack in her usual bold front. The theme music faded, and Whoopi's voice came through, cheerful but cautious. Welcome back to The View, she said, her tone deliberately light. We're here with the wonderful Jennifer Garner, who's been sharing insights about her new film, and a few other things, too. She forced a laugh, trying to reset the mood. Jennifer turned to her, her expression softening slightly. Thank you, Whoopi, she said, her voice warm but guarded. I appreciate the conversation. Joy, undeterred, crossed her legs and leaned in, her smirk returning. Oh, we're always having conversations here, Jennifer, she said, her voice dripping sarcasm. Some people just don't like when it gets real. The audience let out a collective, that drawn-out sound, a crowd sensing drama. Before it explodes, Jennifer's lips parted, but before she could respond, Sarah Haynes jumped in, her voice almost too quick. So, Jennifer, tell us about this new movie, she said. Redirecting desperately, you play a mother, rebuilding her life after tragedy, right? Jennifer nodded, grateful for the lifeline. Yes, she said, her voice steadying. It's about finding strength when life forces you to start over. The story about resilience. And Joy cut her off, her voice sharp. And unyielding resilience, how you've had to do that in your own life, right after you know everything would bend. The audience gasped a loud, collective breath. The words were a gut punch, personal and unfiltered, slicing to the air like a blade. Jennifer blinked, her composure slipping for a split second. You could almost hear her breath catch, the shock in her eyes. Then slowly she sat back, her gaze narrowing, not in anger, but disbelief. Whoopi's eyes widened, her hands rising slightly. Joy, no, she said firmly. We're not doing that. Joy shrugged, feigning innocence. Well, it's public knowledge. Everyone talks about it. She's written about it herself. Jennifer's tone dropped, measured, but cutting. I came here to talk about my work, she said, her voice steady but heavy with emotion. Not to relive my personal pain for entertainment. The studio went still, the weight of her words sinking in. Joy's smile thinly, undeterred. But don't you think people connect to you because of that? She pressed a heartbreak. The single mom thing, it's kind of your brand now. Jennifer inhaled sharply, her eyes flashing. My brand, she echoed, her voice low, almost dangerous. Joy, I'm not a product, I'm a person. And that heartbreak you're talking about, that's my children's lives, their privacy. Not a talking point. The crowd erupted in applause, some shouting yes. And say it. Sonny glanced nervously at producers, a red tally light on camera. 3 flicker. It was live. No one dared cut away. Joy laughed, but it was strained, her confidence wavering. Oh, come on, Jennifer. She says, The View, we ask the questions people are curious about. You can't expect to come here and just sell your movie. Jennifer's composure finally cracked, her voice trembling, not from weakness, but from the effort of holding back a tidal wave of emotion. Curiosity doesn't give anyone a right to humiliate someone on air, she said quietly, each word deliberate. You call it being real, I call it being cruel. The studio fell silent again, the air thick with tension. Joy blinked, realizing she had gone too far. But her pride wouldn't let her back down. You know what's cruel. She snapped, pretending everything's perfect. When everyone knows it's not, people want honesty. Jennifer turned to her eyes fierce now, unyielding. Honesty isn't cruelty, Joy, she said, and hiding behind honesty to tear people down, that's cowardice. The audience erupted again, clapping, cheering. Some standing in their seats' attention had turned into open warfare, and no one could look away. Whoopi raised her hands, her voice sharp. All right, let's cool it. She said, we're not doing this today. But Jennifer wasn't done. She leaned forward, her tone calm. But final, you know what's funny, she said, her voice steady. Now I grew up watching this show. I respected the women who sat here because they had integrity. They built each other up, but what I've seen. Today she paused, shaking her head. This is just noise dressed up as empowerment. The crowd gasped again, the sound sharp. An electric. Joy's jaw tightened, her hands gripping her cue cards. Whoopi's eyes darted to floor manager, who was frantically signaling, we need a break now, she said. But producers didn't cut. They knew what they were witnessing. Television, lightning raw and unscripted. Jennifer continued, her voice steady, but piercing. I don't mind hard questions. I face worse, but when a woman uses her platform to tear another woman down for sport, it says more about her than the person she's mocking. Joy had nothing left to say. She looked down, her hands shaking slightly. As she tapped her cue cards, her face tight with frustration. Sarah leaned toward Jennifer, whispering softly, you're handling this better than I ever could. Jennifer exhaled, her eyes still locked on Joy. You learn to choose your battles, she said quietly, but sometimes the battle chooses you. The audience clapped again, louder now, a standing ovation that felt like a collective exhale. It wasn't just about Jennifer anymore. It was about every guest that ever been cornered. Every moment a celebrity was forced to smile through disrespect. Joy looked up, her voice barely audible over the cheers. You're really making a moment out of this, huh? She said, her tone biting but unsteady. Jennifer smiled faintly, the storm in her eyes softening into something almost compassionate. No, Joy, she said, you made this moment, and just not running from it. The music cue began early, a desperate attempt to calm the storm, but the damage and the spectacle were done. As the segment wrapped, Whoopi leaned closer to Joy, whispering something that didn't reach the microphones. Joy nodded stiffly, her smile fixed, her eyes unreadable. Jennifer turned to the audience, giving a small, grateful wave. The crowd responded like she had delivered a powerful speech, not an interview. The camera panned to Whoopi for the outro. We'll be right back with more views, she said, her voice flat. But stay, don't go anywhere. The second the red light went off, Jennifer leaned back in her chair, her heart still pounding. Producers swarmed to set. A stagehand handed Joy fresh cue cards, and someone whispered in Jennifer's ear, that was wow. Just wow. Jennifer smiled faintly, her hands still trembling. Not the press I came for, she murmured, but maybe the one that needed to happen. Behind her, Joy sighed, muttering under her breath, unbelievable. But the cameras had caught enough, and what happened on that stage was already spiraling beyond the studio. The moment was going viral, tweets flying, clips, shared words, dissected by millions who'd miss a live broadcast. And as the next segment began, everyone on that set knew something had changed. This wasn't just a talk show anymore, it was a spark of a public reckoning. Backstage chaos reigned. Producers whispered urgently. Assistants darted between rooms. Security lingered closer, as if bracing for more. What happened wasn't just another TV moment. It was live television history, unfolding raw and unfiltered. Jennifer stood in the green room, pacing quietly near the mirror. Her reflection stared back, calm on the surface, but her hands trembled as she gripped a paper cup of water. The applause, the confrontation, a look in Joy's eyes that replayed in her mind like a loop she couldn't escape. A young producer, barely in her 20s, approached hesitantly. Miss Garner, she said softly, that was incredible. Are you okay? Jennifer forced a smile, exhaling slowly. I'm fine, she said, though her voice quivered. It's just not what I came here for. From the hallway, muffled voices cut through Joy's unmistakable tone, sharp and defensive. I don't care what Twitter thinks, she snapped. I was doing my job. She took it too seriously. Whoopi's voice followed, calm but firm. Joy, you were out of line. We've talked about this. There's asking tough questions, and then there's being disrespectful. Joy's scoffer voice rising. Oh, please, Whoopi, everyone's too sensitive these days. You can't make a comment without someone acting like it's an attack. Whoopi's tone dropped, steady and unyielding. That wasn't a comment, Joy. That was personal. Jennifer closed her eyes, leaning against the counter as the words bled through the walls. She hadn't meant for it to explode like this, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper had been brewing long before she stepped onto that stage. Sonny Hostin walked in, gently closing the door. Hey, she said softly, her eyes warm. You handled yourself beautifully. Jennifer gave a weary smile beautifully. She said it felt like walking through fire. Sunny nodded her expression. Knowing that's what truth feels like, sometimes there was a pause. Jennifer looked toward a closed door. Do you think I went too far? She asked. Quietly, Sunny hesitated, choosing her words carefully. No. She said, you drew a line. People forget even celebrities have a right to one. Jennifer's eyes dropped to her hand, still clutching the cup. I spent my career avoiding scenes like that. She said, I didn't want to be another viral clip, another shouting match. But she went after my family, Sunny, my kids. That was her voice crack. That was a line. I couldn't ignore Sunny's gaze. Softened. You shouldn't have outside. Joy was still talking, producers, her voice rising. Now everyone's acting like I attacked her. She says a talk show for crying. Out loud. We talked, that's the point, A senior. Producer Michael stepped in, his tone firm. Joy, she didn't sign up to have her personal life dragged on air. You know the guidelines. Joy folded her arms defensive. So now I'm the villain. I've been doing this for years, and suddenly I'm the problem. Because she didn't like the question. Whoopi sighed her patience, thinning no one's calling you the villain, Joy, but we have to respect guests. This isn't Tizzy. We're better than that. Jennifer could hear them through the door, every word cutting through the silence like static. She looked at Sunny. Do you ever get used to it? She asked the judgment. The noise. Sunny gave a half smile. Never. You just learn which noise to ignore. There was a knock. Whoopi poked her head in, her expression gentle but protective. You good? She asked. Jennifer nodded slowly. Yeah, just collected myself. Whoopi stepped inside, shutting the door for what it's worth. She said, you handled that with grace. You didn't lose your temper. You told your truth. Jennifer met her eyes. I didn't want to make it personal, Whoopi. She said, but I'm tired of pretending. People can say whatever they want about me. And am supposed to smile through it. Whoopi chuckled softly. Then don't. You're a human. Sometimes it's okay to stop smiling for the first time since the confrontation. Jennifer laughed quiet. Almost sad. You think it'll blow over? She asked. Whoopi's face was thoughtful. Oh, it won't blow over, she said. It'll explode. But maybe that's not a bad thing. Meanwhile, the live audience was still buzzing, phones out, clips circulating, hashtags formed. Jennifer Garner speaks. Joy Behar. The line. The View meltdown. By the time Jennifer left the green room, her publicist was waiting in the hallway, phone in hand, eyes wide. Jen, it's everywhere, she said. TMZ Variety Entertainment. Tonight, they're running at your trending #1 on Twitter. Jennifer froze, her stomach sinking. Oh no, she said softly. Her publicist showed her the screen, a clip of her saying you hit a mirror loop with bold white captions, racking up millions of views in minutes. Sunny peeked over there, calling it the most powerful moment in talk show history. She said, quietly. Jennifer shook her head. That's not what I wanted. She said, I didn't want a moment. Her publicist sighed. You didn't create it, Jen. You just didn't let it swallow you down. The hall. Joy's dressing room door slammed shut inside. She was fuming, scrolling through her phone. They're all on her side. She muttered she plays a victim. And the monster, typical her assistant, whispered cautiously, maybe just let it cool off. Joy tossed her phone onto the counter. No, I'm not apologizing for doing my job, she said, but her reflection in the mirror told a different story. Tired, offensive, unsteady. She didn't look like the confident host she wanted the world to see. She looked shaken back. In the hallway, Jennifer gathered her things, her heart still racing. She looked back toward the stage. The bright lights now dimmed, the echoes of applause fading into memory. It's strange, she murmured to Whoopi, who stood beside her. You walk and try and promote a story and end up living one. Instead, Whoopi smiled, resting a hand on her shoulder. The truth has a funny way of finding its stage. As Jennifer walked out the back exit, paparazzi lights flared like lightning. Questions shouted. Microphones extended, chaos erupting in every direction. Jennifer, do you have a response to Joy Behar's comments? Were you offended? Will you ever return the View? Jennifer paused for half a second, her face illuminated by flashes. Then she smiled faintly and said one line, calm and resolute, sometimes silence. Says everything. She slid into the car, the door shut, and the crowd's noise faded into distant echoes inside the studio Joy sat alone at. The empty table, the hum of stage lights buzzing above her. For the first time, she looked unsure, haunted. Even the next morning, Good Morning America Entertainment Tonight, and every entertainment outlet would replay that moment again and again. Jennifer Garner versus Joy Behar, grace versus provocation. But what no one could capture was the quiet strength it took for Jennifer to walk off that stage head held high, knowing she had stood her ground. The fallout was instant and relentless. By the next day, the internet was ablaze with clips, memes, and think pieces dissecting every word, glance, and gasp from that fateful segment. Social media buzzed with reactions, some praising Jennifer's poise and strength, others debating whether Joy had crossed a line or simply done her job as a provocative host. Hashtags like Team Garner and Joy Behar apologized trended alongside video edits of Jennifer's "You Hit a Mirror" line set to dramatic music or paired with clapping emojis. Entertainment outlets ran headlines from measured sensational Jennifer Garner shuts down Joy Behar. In explosive view moment variety, America's sweetheart fights back Garner's raw clapback goes viral online. Did Joy Behar go too far? The View confrontation. Everyone's talking about CNN talk shows and morning programs invited pundits to weigh in. Some arguing Joy's questions were standard for The View, others calling her approach needlessly cruel, especially when she brought up Jennifer's personal life. Backstage at The View, the mood stayed tense. Producers held emergency meetings debating how to handle the fallout. Should Joy issue a public apology? Should the show release a statement? The audience's reaction, overwhelmingly in Jennifer's favor, made it clear the narrative was slipping out of control. Joy doubled down in private, insisting to colleagues she had done nothing wrong. My job to ask tough questions, she told producer over coffee the next day. If she can't handle it, that's on her. But her voice lacked its usual fire, and her colleagues noticed. Jennifer retreated from the spotlight as best she could. She declined follow-up interviews, letting her words on The View speak for themselves. Her publicist fielded calls nonstop, filtering requests from outlets desperate for a soundbite at home. Jennifer sat with her kids, shielding them from a media storm. While grappling with the weight of what had happened, I didn't want it to be a thing, she told a close friend over phone, but I couldn't let her talk about my family like that. I just couldn't. The public wasn't ready to let go. Fans flooded Jennifer's social media with support, calling her a role model for standing up to bullying with grace. Women especially resonated with her refusal to smile through disrespect, seeing it as a stand for anyone who's ever been pushed too far. This is why we love Jennifer Garner. One viral tweet read, "She's kind, but not weak." Joy Behar learned that the hard way. On The View's next episode, the host addressed the incident briefly, with Whoopi leading. "We had a heated moment yesterday." She said, her tone neutral, but firm. "We aim for real conversations here, but we also want to respect our guests. We're moving forward and hope you'll join us for the ride." Joy, noticeably subdued, nodded, but said little. Her usual fire dimmed by the backlash. For Jennifer, it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about reclaiming her voice. She had spent years as Hollywood's good girl, smiling through heartbreak, laughing off invasive questions, keeping the peace at all costs. But on that stage, under those blinding lights, she had drawn a line. And in doing so, she had reminded the world and herself that kindness doesn't mean weakness, and grace doesn't mean silence. As weeks passed, the viral moment faded, replaced by new headlines and dramas. But its impact lingered. For The View, it was a wake-up call about the line between tough questions and personal attacks. For Joy, it was a rare moment of public vulnerability, a crack in her armor that forced her to face the cost of her provocations. And for Jennifer, it was a turning point, a reminder that even America's sweetheart has a spine of steel ready to stand tall when pushed too far. The story of Jennifer Garner's showdown on The View wasn't just about a single TV moment. It was about the power of authenticity, the courage to stand for what matters, and the messy human reality of navigating fame in a world that loves to tear people down. It was a reminder that even the kindest hearts have limits, and when those limits are tested, the results can be explosive. So what did you think of this unforgettable clash? Share your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to Prime Narrator for more stories that pull back the curtain on Hollywood's biggest moments, because sometimes the most powerful stories aren't scripted, they're lived.